Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all safe and well this morning. My name is Bradley Davis. I am the contract manager for the ASK program in London. So the ASK program is an acronym. It stands for the Apprenticeship Support and Knowledge for Schools and Colleges program. And we are the government-funded organisation that aims to promote the awareness and uptake of apprenticeships amongst young people. So that's what brings me in to speak with your good selves today. We'll give an overview of what apprenticeships are, what the different levels of apprenticeships are, where you can find apprenticeships to apply for, higher and degree apprenticeships, and that kind of thing. All right. So hopefully by the end of today's session, you have a better understanding of apprenticeships and can make a more informed decision about your next steps moving forward in your education and your career. Okay. So first of all, we start with the very, very basics. What actually is an apprenticeship? Well, an apprenticeship is an on-the-job training program that mixes work with study, for which the apprentice is always paid. And at the end of the program, the apprentice graduates with a qualification that entitles him or her to work in his or her chosen field. All right. So don't confuse an apprenticeship with an internship. Internship is unpaid work experience. An apprenticeship will always involve a salary. What that salary is varies an awful lot, right? So some of the apprenticeships are, maybe in the low teens per year, some in the mid-teens, some in the high teens, or even some of them even into the £20,000 a year. Yeah. So some of the apprenticeships are very well paid. But even if you're looking at a more modest salary, it is worth bearing in mind that no one pays you to go to university and no one pays you to go to college. So you're still getting a salary to get your qualification, which is an asset. An apprentice will spend 80% of their time at work, learning from the experts and getting paid, and 20% of their time studying, either at college or university, depending on the level. So usually that's 4 days a week at work, 1 day a week studying. However, some companies do spread that out differently. So you might have the studying as one big block and the rest of the time working, for example. Yeah. So it really depends on the program, the company, and the level. But speaking of levels, there are lots of different levels of apprenticeships, and we'll elaborate on this momentarily so you know which one you should be applying for. Some of them are equivalents of GCSEs and A levels. Others will get you a foundation degree, a full degree, or even a master's degree can be achieved through the apprenticeship route now. All right. It is not a soft option. So you'll be experiencing the rigors of adult professional life for the very first time. You have learning outcomes that need to be met. Therefore, you have to be doing, real work with real responsibilities, right? And you're juggling all of that with part-time studying as well. So it can be tough. It can be challenging. Many apprentices say for the first few weeks, while they're getting into the routine, the rhythm, they found it quite challenging. However, there are very rich rewards that we'll elaborate on moving through the presentation. All right. There are almost 700 different types or standards of apprenticeships available in the UK. And I will show you a website later where you can find out about every single type of apprenticeship that's been authorized. Yeah. Okay. As promised, we're going to talk a little bit more about the levels of apprenticeships available now. So as I mentioned earlier, you have your intermediate and advanced apprenticeships, which are equivalents of GCSEs and A levels, and T levels, by the way, for level 3. So these apprenticeships you can start at age 16 after your GCSEs, and the study component would likely be at a college, all right, a local college. But you also have higher and degree apprenticeships. Now, higher apprenticeships will get you a foundation degree. You have to be, you study part-time at university now, and you have to be 18 to start them. Now, some people, particularly if you're academic and studious, and the expectation has always been that you'd go to university and get some kind of degree, very often such young people and their families will ask, well, why should we settle for a higher apprenticeship that only gets you a foundation degree? Yeah, reasonable question. Well, there are a couple of reasons why. First of all, it might actually qualify you to do your job, in which case, you're qualified, you don't have to worry. But also, it doesn't have to be the end of your education and training journey. Yeah. So you might start off doing a higher apprenticeship and get a foundation degree. And then that same company might put you on a full degree apprenticeship. And you wouldn't have to start from scratch. It'd only be an extra year or two on top of what you've done already. Alternatively, you could do the same thing at another company, or you could go to university for a year and just get yourself all the way up to a degree that way. Okay, because degree apprenticeships can be quite competitive. Starting off at a higher is a great way of getting your foot through the door. All right. Then, of course, you have your degree apprenticeship programs. Most level 6s and 7s are degree level. Some level 7s even being masters. And for these programs, the expectation is that you are always going to end up at degree level when it starts. All right. And of course, you're studying part-time at university there. All right. Okay, I'm going to share with you now a short video of some apprentices across many levels talking about their roles and why they find apprenticeships are empowering for them. Please do let me know if there are any audio issues.
When I first heard the word apprentice, I automatically assumed like a car garage or something that was definitely going to be hands-on and dirty.
Not many people realise you could be doing an exciting job role just like us.
My name is Natasha Thomas.
My name is Curtis Henry.
My name's Will Crew.
My name's Chris.
My name is Lillian.
I work at BBC Radio Bristol.
General Manager.
An Ethernet repair analyst.
A Defence Equipment Support Apprentice.
I'm a level 3 apprentice.
There are thousands of different apprenticeships you could be looking at out there. It's even possible for you to do a degree through an apprenticeship, and you don't even have to pay anything.
I didn't want to go to university. I wanted to get into work. I was interested in floristry, and an apprenticeship was the way in, the best way in.
It's a great alternative to uni. I can stay here and work my way up the ladder for this organisation, or I can go into industry and branch out.
The most common misconception with apprenticeships is it's this backup option. People see it as a secondary route when you perhaps haven't done well at your A-levels or your GCSEs, and it's something that's easy to do and it's low skilled, but it's not. It's really an interesting job that you could do that could see you through life.
My day-to-day jobs, depending on what role I'm doing, if I'm on a BA shift, then I'll come in and help the producers find guests for the show, or help them find stories that we've normally sort of decided on. Or if I'm doing a reporter role, sometimes it'll be going to the scene of an event.
My job consists of going out to visit our customers and fixing, installing their phone lines, broadband, super fast fibre.
I think a degree while doing an apprenticeship is hard work, but having that sort of mix of degree and sort of work experience is really good and valuable to businesses.
Working and studying at the same time, I find it's a lot to do, but I've always kind of juggled more than one job, so it's just about organising your time, knowing when there are certain deadlines, and not overbooking yourself. So if someone says you want to come out and you've got work to do, just don't go out.
I think there is a reputation that apprenticeships are low paid, but I can definitely say that our pay is very reasonable, and it gives you a level of independence to be able to go and buy your own car or put a deposit down for a house.
My parents are proud of me doing an apprenticeship, working for such a big company, earning a good wage, earning a good living.
I think the three main benefits to apprenticeships are you develop good working relationships, you earn a wage, and you develop yourself personally as well as professionally.
When I first started, I was really quiet and shy, but just being around lots of helpful and confident people has definitely improved and boost my confidence.
It's a good way to earn money while learning qualifying a skill or trade.
I definitely become a lot more confident, and I know what I want to do now. I've kind of had enough space to make mistakes and grow and have some clarity about the future.
To find an apprenticeship, the best way.
Okay, so what I think was most interesting hearing from those actual young apprentices is just the range of different roles and employers that they can be doing and working for. So one young man, they're working for the Ministry of Defence. Another young lady, they're working in floristry. One woman working as a journalist in the BBC. So you see there a kind of range of apprenticeships that are available, just how wide it is these days. And you also heard, I think, how empowering these young people find doing an apprenticeship. So they start off as kind of, young school kids, really. They go through the doors, they're endowed with this adult responsibility, and they have the opportunity to rise and flourish in those circumstances whilst being well supported by their employer and by their training provider, their university or their college. All right, and you also saw, I think, some of the range of salaries available there. For some as low as 12,000, some up to 17, 20,000, that kind of area. All right.
Be to go on.
Okay. But speaking of the range of different apprenticeships that are available, fairly recently, apprenticeships are mostly for the trades. So you'd get things like hairdressing, mechanics, plumbing, construction, that kind of thing. Yeah. Now, those opportunities still exist. They're still really important for thousands of young people every single year. But the breadth of apprenticeships opportunities has just increased exponentially recently. So you can get into business through the apprenticeship route, working as a manager or in HR. You can get into sport, like coaching or safety trainer. You can get into the media, the healthcare sector, law, engineering is a big one. The digital sector is a massive one as well. So every single industry can now be accessed through the apprenticeship route. Yeah. I'm not saying every single job within the industry. So let's say you wanted to go into law, you can currently qualify as a paralegal clerk or a solicitor or work in prosecution operations through a degree apprenticeship, but you cannot yet be a barrister. Yeah. But then the range is always increasing. So this time last year, I was saying to people, oh, well, you can work in medicine through the apprenticeship route. You could be a nurse, for example, but you cannot yet be a doctor. And then lo and behold, the first doctor's apprenticeship was launched in September of this year. So every year, that range gets wider and wider. Now, this website here is very useful if you're right at the very beginning of your engagement with apprenticeships. Yeah. So you might like the idea of apprenticeships because you earn a salary and you earn while you learn, that kind of thing. But you might not yet know exactly what kind of job role you would like to do an apprenticeship in. Well, this website has every single apprenticeship that's been authorised in the UK on it. Yeah, this is the government body that authorised the apprenticeships. So all 700 of them will be on there. So if you go onto this website, the Institute for Apprenticeships, you'll be able to do a keyword search, and you'll find out all of the apprenticeships that match your search that have been authorised in the UK. You'll find out what the level is, funding, salary range, that kind of thing. All right. So that'll be a good way of you figuring out exactly what kind of apprenticeship you might be applying for. And here are some of the employers that currently offer apprenticeships, right? So about half the apprenticeships you come across will be small companies. It won't have that name recognition. But in some ways, they offer quite attractive programs because if there's only 5 people in the entire team and you're one of them, the entire company, and you're one of them, that company's success really depends on you doing well. So a lot of time, effort, and TLC is invested into making sure that you do flourish. Yeah. But meanwhile, these larger employers do have very well vetted, well-respected apprenticeship programs, Network Rail for engineering, for example, Royal Air Force for public service, for banking and finance, you've got Santander and RBS, to name just a couple. For arts, you've got Sky, BBC. For your tech roles, you've got Google, and many, many, many more besides. All right, so quite a lot to be found and applied for. However, on that last slide, I was making quite a deliberate mistake. I was linking the company for the industry it's most famous for operating in, so Network Rail and engineering, for example, yeah? However, you cannot be that two-dimensional when you're looking for apprenticeship opportunities to apply for. Because all those big companies will have different departments that they need to help them run effectively and smoothly, yeah? So they're all going to have finance and legal and cybersecurity departments, and those different departments, they need their talent pipeline to be flowing healthily as well. So an apprenticeship at Pret or Starbucks or Green King isn't going to be an apprenticeship in making a fancy sandwich, making a vanilla latte, or pulling a pint. You may find yourself doing a cybersecurity or a finance or a marketing apprenticeship at a company like that, even though they're not famous for operating in those spaces, yeah? Because they've still got the departments. Okay, so where would you go to find an apprenticeship to apply for? Before I get into that, I am just going to talk to you a little bit more about higher and degree apprenticeships, all right? So those degree level apprenticeships, one of the main reasons why you would get your degree through an apprenticeship rather than through the conventional university route is that you will not pay a single penny in tuition fees, all right? So I'm sure you know that to go to normal university, you have to pay £9,000 a year for the privilege, never mind the maintenance loan you take on top of that. So if you get your degree through an apprenticeship, you are accessing university facilities, both academic and recreational, if you're so inclined. You still get a degree at the end of the program issued by the university with the graduation ceremony and the like, but you will not pay a single penny in tuition fees because the company and the government will pay those tuition fees for you. Meanwhile, you're earning a salary from these fantastic employers that we've just mentioned. Yeah. So instead of getting into debt to get your degree, you're getting paid to get your degree instead, an inversion of how it normally works. The other main advantage here, speaking of employers, for all levels of apprenticeship, is the work experience factor, right? How often do you hear employers say to young people, we want candidates with experience? Young people reply back, we don't have any experience, do we? Because we've been studying. How do you break that catch-22? Well, a great way of breaking that catch-22, the best way, is to get qualified through an apprenticeship, because you're proving to the employer you could do the job not just in theory, but in actuality, because you've been doing the work while studying towards the apprenticeship, right? 90% of the time, the employer will retain you for a few years after you've completed your apprenticeship. That's because they've invested a lot of time, and if you finish it, that's because they've invested a lot of time and effort and money into training you up. You've proven yourself, you've networked. They want to retain your new talents for a few years afterwards. And many of the 10% that don't stay at the company, they haven't been fired or let go. They've gone on to get more attractive options elsewhere, if that makes sense. All right. So the employability rates for apprentices post-apprenticeship are excellent. I deliver alongside apprentices, go to schools with them very often to co-deliver. And if they're near the end of their program, the question that will be asked is, oh, you know, what's next for you after the apprenticeship? And very often they've got promotions lined up, or they're going to be put in charge of a team of graduates, people who've come from a university who are qualified at the same level as them, technically, because they've both got degrees. Excuse me. But the apprentice graduate has all the work experience and has proven himself or herself to the company already. All right. So work experience and getting paid and avoiding student fees are major assets, major advantages of the apprenticeship route, including your job security as well. All right. But all that being said, where would you actually go to find an apprenticeship to apply for? Well, there is no one place where every single apprenticeship can be found, but there are lots of different sources you can go to. All right. So the largest database of apprenticeships in the country is the Find an Apprenticeship website. This is the government website. It's free of charge and safe to use. There are between 10 and 20,000 live vacancies at any one time. All right. And the user interface is nice and straightforward. You can see the QR code that will take you through to it there. Then you select your region and you can sign in and create your account. Now, once you've created your account, the user interface is nice and straightforward. You've put in the kind of apprenticeship you're looking for, be it digital, marketing, engineering, software development, mechanics, whatever it is, yeah? Put in where you live, how far you're prepared to travel to work. And remember, traveling to work is not the same as traveling to school. You would set a slightly wider radius to capture the best opportunities. The type of level of apprenticeship you're interested in, bearing in mind what we said at the start about levels. And then it will generate a list for you of all the current vacancies that match your search criteria in your area. Now, when you're applying for apprenticeships, one of the questions we'll get is, when should you be applying? Well, there's no deadline for apprenticeships. It's not like normal university route where there's a deadline, right? Different companies will advertise at different times of the year, and they will have different start dates. That can be really frustrating for year 11 and year 13 leavers, because if you were to go online right now and see the current vacancies, you would notice that a lot of their start dates aren't suitable for you. The apprenticeship might start in January or March or April, yeah? And you're still doing your exams, so it's no good for you. You can't leave school early. That being said, some of the vacancies will come online very, very early, yeah? So if you're a year 12 or year 10 listening to this, for example, and you're thinking, I might want to do an apprenticeship after year 11 or after year 13, it's worth you looking this early in a year's time, because some companies will advertise a full year in advance. They'll secure their people very early. And if you're one of those people, you don't have anything to worry about, yeah? But in all honesty, for all of you listening, the bulk of vacancies that are useful for school leavers, i.e. they start in September or the summer when you finish your exams, the bulk of those come online, after Christmas, run up to Easter, that kind of time. So that's when you want to get most of your applications sent off, but you lose absolutely nothing by looking for the ones that are advertised hyper early as well. Yeah. Okay, other places to find apprenticeship vacancies would include database sites like Rate My Apprenticeship and Not Going to Uni. They don't have as many vacancies as Find an Apprenticeship, but still certainly useful places for you to visit. You've also got various other places to look, particularly if you're looking for a higher or degree level apprenticeship. So UCAS is an increasingly important avenue in the apprenticeship space. They have a matchmaking service that they're piloting this year, where you express an interest in apprenticeships and upload your CV at the same time as you upload your personal statement. A lot of vacancies are being transposed onto UCAS, so definitely worth exploring UCAS as a vacancy source for apprenticeships as well. You've also got the higher in degree vacancy listing published on the amazing apprenticeships website twice a year. So January sort of time, and in November, October, they publish their higher in degree vacancy listings. So worth checking that out. Individual company websites. It's laborious. No one likes doing it. But some companies will have their vacancies, their apprenticeship vacancies in their, on their vacancy pages on their websites. So if it's an individual website, go on Google, go on to the 13th page to find those more obscure companies and those more obscure vacancies is one way that apprentices tell me they find great success when applying for various roles. All right. Oh, one more top tip. Utilize social media to your advantage. So LinkedIn is a great way of finding vacancies because lots of companies will advertise on LinkedIn these days. It will also allow you to promote yourself as an attractive candidate, and it will allow you to research the company and the industry that will put you in good stead when you get to interview. All right. So definitely use LinkedIn to support your apprenticeship application process, I would say. Okay. One last thing I would say about the applications. When you apply for an apprenticeship, because you're applying to the company for paid work, the application process resembles a job application process much more than an application to conventional university or to college. All right. So the kind of things you'll expect to see would mirror a conventional job application process. So you would expect to submit your CV, an application form, most of the time, but there are some exceptions. BT doesn't ask for CVs for all of their apprenticeship roles, for example, but most companies still would. Then you might find you have a telephone interview where they'll ask you some rudimentary questions about who you are, what your strengths and skills are, and why you want to work for that organization. You might find online testing, depending on the size of the company. So some of these online tests might be about literacy or numeracy. Some of them might be subject specific for the role you're applying for. Others might be situational, asking how you would cope with a given situation if you were actually employed by that organization. But not every company will have online testing. Then you might also have an assessment center, which is where the final crop of applicants are brought together and are asked to do individual tasks and group tasks over the course of the day. And they'll be interviewed as part of the day. If you're at that stage of the application process, the good news is that they have already judged, based on your CV and the other stages, that you're good enough to do the job, which is good and flattering. Bad news is everybody else in the room is in that exact same position. So what they're looking for here is soft skills, your transferable skills, teamwork, leadership, communication, that kind of thing, because they are not just looking for a student, they are looking for a colleague, someone they've got to work with every day for the next few years. Yeah. And then, of course, you have the interview, as you'd expect to see in a job application process. So each company does it differently, but in broad strokes, it is like applying for a job. Going on to various websites like Amazing Apprenticeships or the National Career Service website is a real positive thing you can do if you're trying to apply for apprenticeships, because you probably won't have gone through a professional job application process before. And there are a lot of resources on the Amazing Apprenticeships website and on the National Career Service website that will support and scaffold you through each stage of the application process. All right. Speaking of which, you can find the Amazing Apprenticeships links available there. Like I said, resources to support you through each stage of the application process, and many more resources besides. The apprenticeships.gov.uk website also has support around how to set up an apprenticeship if you're an employer, and how to again navigate the application process if you're a student as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes me to the end of the presentation. Now, does anybody have any questions they would like to ask about apprenticeships or the apprenticeship application process at all?
Bradley, well done. I know you're kind of feeling under the weather, so that was fantastic. Well done. I've not seen any questions come in yet to the Q&A box, but I'll maybe just pose you one of my own. I was curious because you mentioned the doctor apprenticeship, the relatively new doctor apprenticeship. What kind of a length is that? I mean, is it quite substantial? Is it 6-7 years, or is it? And typically your normal apprenticeships, how long do they last?
Yeah, so the normal apprenticeships, they range quite considerably. And they tend to range mostly based on the level. So those level 2s and 3s, those GCSEs and A levels, they will tend to last like maybe a year, 18 months, 2 years kind of territory. The higher apprenticeship and the degree level apprenticeships, they might last you 4 to 6 years. With the higher apprenticeships, often somewhere in the middle. So how long they last really does depend on the type of apprenticeship it is and the level. They Institute for Apprenticeships website I mentioned early in the presentation that has every single type of apprenticeship that's been authorized on it. If you want more information about like the lengths of those any given apprenticeship program, that's a great place to visit because that should tell you roughly how long that standard would last.
Perfect, thank you. We do have a couple of questions coming into the chat. I don't know if the Q&A box, are you able to access that, or do you want me to read them out to you? Or?
I can see them.
Great.
Okay, so one attendee asks, how fast is the typical employment process? Yeah, that's a good question. And again, just to give you a vague, fluffy, kind of unhelpful answer, it really varies depending on the company. So some people some companies turn it around very quickly. And, a few weeks after launching the vacancy, they'll have secured their person. Other companies, it lasts, can last for a few months. But yeah, it will vary. It vary from program to program, company to company. If you go on any of the vacancy websites I mentioned, Find an Apprenticeship, Rate My Apprenticeship, Not Going to Uni, company websites, they'll tell you when their closing dates are, when you have to apply by, and they should also tell you their individual start date. Yeah, so when that program actually launches. So that might be helpful. And then Sarah asks, for higher and degree apprenticeships, attending university on the side, does that mean you do not get maintenance loans? So how can we externally fund for the equivalent of loans if we need help? Okay, so basically, Sarah, you will not get loans because you are getting a salary. Yeah. So the expectation is because you're earning that wage, you're getting paid by the employer, you would not need a maintenance loan because you can use that to fund and sustain yourself, your salary, if that makes sense. Yeah. We've also got another question from Fatima. If applying to multiple apprenticeships that may slightly differ sometimes, how would you advise you make your CV so it suits them all? So you have a baseline CV that you kind of like use as your starting point for all your applications, but you want to change it based on what that company is looking for. So there are things called buzzwords in the individual job adverts, where they'll talk about the kind of strengths and skills that they want their applicant to have. So what you do is you change the wording of your baseline CV so it reflects the strengths and skills and qualities that the employer is looking for, and you just do that each time. So they match basically. Another question is, if you were to apply for a degree level apprenticeship but get rejected, could you apply again next year? So yes, there's no upper age limit for degree apprenticeships. And actually, where a lot of people have been successful is that they've, in year 13, they've applied for both degree apprenticeships, which is their plan A, but also they've applied for normal university. Yeah. They've secured their normal university spot, and they have not succeeded in getting a degree apprenticeship at that time, what they do is they take a gap year. They defer on that university spot. UCAS holds it for them, and they spend their gap year applying for degree apprenticeships, and they're more likely to be successful because two-thirds of the applications, only a third, of the apprenticeship starts annually are in September. That means all the year 13 leavers funnel into the same vacancies. It gets hyper competitive. If you're taking a gap year and you're applying throughout what would be your year 14, you have way more vacancies to play with. They're not as oversubscribed, so you're more likely to be successful. And if by the end of that year you still haven't got one, in the hopefully unlikely event, then you've still got that UCAS spot for your normal university that you deferred on the year before. All right. I'll give one last question because I am conscious that we have gotten ourselves to 9 o'clock and this is a half an hour session. Let's have a quick look. So, will there be training for the apprentice? Is the next question. Yes. So the apprenticeship program basically is a training program. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to ensure that the people doing the apprenticeship, I was going to say young people, but it's not just young people, are endowed with the skills they need to flourish in the world of work. So the apprenticeship standards are generated with industry experts, and you have the double whammy wraparound support, because you're getting support from the college or the university on the one hand, but you're also getting support from the employer as well. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for joining me this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will now bid you a farewell, and I bid you all the very best of luck with your apprenticeship application journeys or your next steps, whatever they happen to be. So thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.